Throughout my education experience, there have been incidents or people that have stuck with me over time and have made me want to be a teacher or have made me decide what type of teacher I want to be. My PDHB teacher from year 11 to 12 was an individual who is the sole reason I want to be a teacher, and sort of the reason why. She was strict and followed the curriculum, but had this very caring approach to her teaching, always going out of her way or even in her own time to ask how you are, set up help classes, and tried her best to brighten up the classroom with treats. She had such a positive impact on students and had the ability to make us try our best but also have fun during the HSC. Nearing the end of schooling and having to choose a profession, I knew I wanted to be a teacher to do the exact same, which is to incorporate positive attitudes to make school a happy place when it feels like such a bad place to many students. Reflecting back on this individual, I can now see her ideology and her aim of education aligns fluently with the ideology discussed in Noel Nodding's Aims of Education, as Nodding talks about adding essentially happiness as an outcome for education, and I just think my teacher really models this ideology, as she just doesn't want to make education about education and make it really strict. It has further influenced the way I wanted to teach, which is also to emulate this ideology of making happiness an aim of education. In a school environment, I believe I tend to thrive when the teacher has a social justice approach to their teaching, a term I learned in this unit. Applying this knowledge, it is now evident to me that my religion teacher was another reason as to why I want to be a teacher, or specifically what kind of teacher I want to be. He made sure that all students had a fair go and expressed his belief that anyone could do anything they set their mind to, showing no favoritism. As I already knew I was going to be a teacher nearing the end of Year 12, I didn't really know what teacher I wanted to be. But after seeing him, I knew I wanted to be a teacher who not only educated, I wanted to be a teacher who also applied this social justice approach to my learning to make sure all get a fair go in their education. Now thinking about this time and reflecting on it, there was another individual in my educational experience who counteracted this thought. So my mathematics teacher in Year 10, which now looking back is a reason in which I want to be a teacher who incorporates everyone and lets everyone believe they can do anything. The teacher was very evident in favouring the students he who knew were going to do well in the tests. I remember feeling disheartened as I was really trying and just felt left out. This made it hard for me to do my best, as the teacher showed no signs that he believed in half the students, which made me inclined to not try my best. With the use of the reading called Sociology by Kraken, specifically Chapter 5, Education and Knowledge, I can now make sense of these two instances which have influenced me into deciding what kind of teacher I want to be. In our math class in Year 10, we can see the teacher's indirect use of the labelling theory in his practice. Labelling theory is a point discussed in this reading, discussing how the ways teachers define students, in particular their predictions of future success or failure, create a self-fulfilling prophecy through the classroom interactions. Therefore, by my math teacher acting out the capabilities he thinks the students are, such as being able to do good in a test, so smart or dumb, not dumb, just less capable, by favoritism, has made me want to be a teacher who applies social justice to all situations in the classroom by modelling the actions of my religion teacher. Through my study of this unit and the multiple ideas we have covered across the week, I have been able to develop a philosophy of education that defines the way we think. As an ethical teacher, I believe that all teachers should strive for the education system and curriculum to change to enable more creativity and free thinking. Through my analysis of readings and reflections, I have been able to formulate this philosophical statement through asking myself a series of questions. So aims of education and how we educate. I have become familiar with this idea of the education system being outdated, and have also become very fond of the idea that the education system needs to change. My belief about the aims of education has changed drastically between now and the beginning of this unit. As before, I had a broad ideology about the aim of education, which was to simply educate the children. But now I strongly have this idea that we shouldn't just keep educating the coming generations how we'd have been doing it for centuries. I believe we should play on their creativity and imagination, not confining them to books and facts. This idea is very much the outcome of my study of philosophy of education, specifically progressivism and the ideology expressed by Jean-Jacques Rousseau, an individual who believed in playing on the nature of the child and to avoid the use of books and rather use the effects of experience to educate. Therefore, this has influenced me to believe the aim of education is to allow the individual to grow in knowledge while at the same time not confining them, so allowing free thinking as an approach. The Alice Springs Declaration further strengthens this statement about creativity, as one of its both focal points is to ensure that all students under the education system can be confident and creative learners. Overall, through these two sources and reflecting on my own learning throughout the unit, I can now make a conclusion that I believe education should be to utilize and promote creativity, and the way we educate should promote that. Really promote it. This is the next point of discussion. The education system is too restricting. Being part of my philosophy statement, or an underlying theme, correlates very well with this idea that education and society can be linked very strongly. It has been quite evident to me that education does matter for society, as it produces the very society we are talking about. In Tate's Making Sense of Mass Education, when he is debunking the myths about education, he talks about a specific school of thought, which is Althusser. Althusser, or however you pronounce it, depicts this relationship very well in his arguments, as that the school system acts as a sophisticated filter which spits out the working class at an early age with the belief system necessary to do what's asked of them. Ruling classes stay. So basically, from Althusser, making connections through education, basically just producing these robots of children through the use of the curriculum, and by reading this by Tate and our study of social foundations of contemporary schooling, I have made this conclusion that education does matter to society, as through the curriculum it produces as it produces robots who find jobs and make money for society to thrive. This is where my philosophical statement is relevant, as from this I have noted that the education system and the curriculum need to change in ways to enable the students to be creative and make choices of their own and decide what they want to do when they're released into society. In my statement, I mentioned the type of teacher I want to be, which is to be an ethical individual in the classroom setting. Our study of ethics, morals, and professionalism, through our study of ethics, morals, and professionalism, I use this to develop my own philosophy. I believe to be an ethical teacher means to still hold a professional stance with the children about all matters, such as not putting a biased opinion out into the classroom, but also to be a model teacher that presents traits such as respect and fairness. This portion of my statement is in relation to my reading by Bergam. He conducted research as to what young people think about the roles of teachers in the classroom, and by reading it, I acquired my own sense of direction on what role I want to have, as it allowed me to reflect and to use the gathered information to make a conclusion about what an ethical teacher does and essentially what it means. The Australian Professional Teaching Standards, a framework which outlines the expectations of teachers in the workplace, influenced me to incorporate a professional stance to the way I want to teach, and what I think an ethical teacher is through its 7 standards, number 6 being engaged in professional learning. Through all of these 3 topics, I have made a conclusion of my philosophical statement. Thank you.